Thank you for clicking on this help video. So in this sample, I'll go over how to answer questions similar to the one in your homework. So we have a sample that contains 80 grams of carbon-14, which has a half-life of approximately 123 years. So our first job here is to estimate what the value of K is. So since the half-life is 130 years, that means that if I start off with 80, then the amount that I have 123 years will be 40. So the general formula of figuring out K is to get the natural log of the amount that we want. So in this case, it's A of 123 and divided by the initial amount, A of 0. And then that gets divided by the years that it takes us to go from 40 to get half the value, which is 123. So what we're going to do is get this value here and divided by 80, which is going to reduce to 1/2. So all you do to get the half-life is to get the natural log of half-life, and divided by the years, so 123. So even if I didn't know what 80, that we start off with 80 grams, I can still at least figure out what the value of K is by just doing this, because I know I'm going to end up with half of what I originally started off. So the only thing left to do is now type into decimal. So we start by clicking divide. We're going to type in the natural log, and in parentheses, we're going to get the ratio of 1/2. Again, the 40 divided by the 80, which is just 1/2. That will be divided by the total of 123, which we end up with that value. Now we want this number. You know what? I'm just going to call it K. I'm going to say K equals to that, so I could store that value there. And I'm going to round the value of K to 3 decimal places. So that's going to be that value of 0.006. Now, up here, the reason I wanted to do this is to show you that no matter what numbers I use, whether it was 40/80, notice that the value of K is the same number, and when we round it to 3 decimal places, I still end up with the same number as 0.006. Or if I had another ratio that again that reduces to half, so had I started off with 90 and I end up with half of that, which would be 45, notice I still end up with the same thing. So anytime it's half-life, know that your ratio will automatically be 1 divided by 2 inside that parentheses there. So with our answer being negative 0.006, I can now figure out part B by finding again the amount that we're going to have here. So the amount of this carbon-14 in terms of T will start off with 80 grams times e to the negative 0.006 T. And using that model from part B, we can now figure out part C by evaluating and substituting T with 168. So we want to figure out the amount when T is 168. So that just simply requires us to replace T with 168. So here I'm typing 80 times E. I'm going to get the exponent again of negative 0.006. And we're replacing the value of T again with 168. So that's going to bring the entire amount to 29.19, which estimates to 29. And neither of these two answers are acceptable. It's either 29.19 or 29. And finally, for the last one, for what value of T is the substance going to decay down to 59? So there's going to be this amount at some time T that equals 58. So that's going to require us to use the model from part B. And setting it equal to 58, because we don't know the time. That's what we're trying to solve here. We're looking for time. So that means we need to set up an equation, which is solved by first dividing both sides by this 80, the amount that we originally started off with. So E is going to be raised to the negative 0.006T. and that's going to equal to the 58, the amount that we want to get to, divided by the 80, the amount we start off with. We can then take the natural log of both sides, so we can cancel out the natural log and this, going through all the properties of logs. So we ultimately end up with 0.0060 equals to the natural log of 58 over 80. Then dividing by negative 0.006. We get our answer. T equals the natural log of 58 over 80 divided by negative 0.006. Now the only thing left to do is to type in the decimal. So I'm going to store this number into the letter A. So we're going to take first divide. I'm going to, in the numerator, I'm going to take the natural log of the 58 divided by 80, and then moving my cursor down to the denominator here, I'm going to divide that by, again, negative 0.006, which is 59.53. And if I use my rounding feature of this letter A at 0, that's one places it estimates to 54. So here is your answer. Well, this is acceptable along with, or just estimating it to 54. So there are your answers for all four parts, not three, there's 4 parts there. Well, I hope this video was helpful, but if you do have any questions, please send me a message or email or through message my instructor. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day.